Have you ever wondered about the history of the Penguin? In the world of comic book villains, you've got everything from mad scientists to alien overlords. But then there's Oswald Cobblepot, better known as the Penguin, Gotham's classiest, sneakiest, and most bird-like crime boss. With his tuxedo, top hat, and a collection of weaponized umbrellas, the Penguin is both terrifying and, well, adorable in his own special way. But where did this waddling menace come from? And how did he become one of Batman's most iconic villains? Let's dive into the storied history of the Penguin, from his cartoonish beginnings to his darker, modern transformations. I'm Keith, and this is History Wonder. The Penguin waddled onto the scene in 1941 in Detective Comics number 58, courtesy of writer Bill Finger and artist Bob Kane. This was a time when Batman was still a relatively new character, fighting street-level thugs, mad scientists, and the occasional random animal-themed villain. But Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin, was something different. With his round-top physique, long nose, and aristocratic airs, the Penguin was instantly memorable. He wasn't a mad scientist or a superpowered being. He was simply a well-dressed man with a fondness for avian-themed crime. He introduced himself to Gotham as a gentleman of crime, robbing his way across the city with style, sophistication, and a variety of high-tech umbrellas. Sure, he was a little ridiculous, but he quickly proved himself to be a serious threat, using his wits and social connections to maneuver his way to the top of Gotham's criminal world. The Penguin became popular quickly, probably because he was so different from Batman's other foes. He wasn't a grotesque monster like Two-Face, and he wasn't a flamboyant maniac like the Joker. He was simply a criminal with class. Well, sort of. Underneath that tuxedo was a vicious, vengeful heart, one that would happily take down Batman and anyone else who stood in his way. Ah, the Silver Age of comics, when everything was a bit zanier, a bit sillier, and a lot more kid-friendly. In the 1950s and 60s, the Penguin underwent some, well, let's say, interesting transformations. The comics of this era toned down the violence and ramped up the goofiness. During this period, the Penguin was less of a crime lord and more of a prankster, pulling off heists with elaborate bird-themed plots that felt like something out of a Saturday morning cartoon. One issue, for example, saw the Penguin training an army of actual penguins to commit crimes for him. Another had him using an umbrella helicopter to escape from Batman, a gadget that, if we're honest, looks more like it belongs in a Looney Tunes episode than a gritty crime drama. But that was part of the charm of the Silver Age. Batman and his villains were wacky, unpredictable, and just a little bit weird. Despite the zany stories, Penguin remained a fan favorite. There was something lovable about this oddball villain with a tuxedo, top hat, and monocle. He was a symbol of classy villainy, someone who would be scheming one moment and ordering caviar the next. Then came the Batman TV show in 1966, and with it, the legendary performance of Burgess Meredith as the Penguin. Meredith's Penguin was pure camp magic. He'd waddle around the set, squawking with his iconic wah-wah-wah laugh, delivering schemes as elaborate as his vocabulary, and sporting a cigarette holder that somehow made him look even more refined while also completely unhinged. The TV show's Penguin was less of a criminal mastermind and more of a cartoon character, but it didn't matter. Fans ate it up. Meredith's performance had such an impact that his version of the Penguin became the most well-known iteration of the character for years. The TV show might have been campy, but it was wildly popular, and Meredith's Penguin was so beloved that he reprised the role in the Batman movie adaptation. This version of the Penguin was so fun, so ridiculously charming, that he practically stole the show from Batman himself. The 1970s saw the Batman comics take a darker turn, with its writers like Dennis O'Neil and artist Neil Adams restoring Batman to his roots as the Dark Knight. Gone were the days of whimsical gadgetry and bird-brained plots. The Penguin had to adapt to this, becoming a more calculating and ruthless villain. Instead of planning elaborate pranks, the Penguin began to focus on organized crime, working his way up the Gotham underworld and trying to stake his claim as one of the city's major crime bosses. He was still a bit eccentric, of course. You don't just get rid of that trick umbrella. But he was more menacing, with a ruthless streak that made him genuinely threatening. The Penguin evolved from a cackling prankster into a serious villain who could go toe-to-toe with Batman. Then came the 1990s, and with it, Tim Burton's Batman Returns, a dark, twisted take on the Batman mythos that introduced audiences to Danny DeVito's unforgettable portrayal of the Penguin. This wasn't the classy, sophisticated criminal from the comics. Burton's Penguin was a deformed, sewer-dwelling grotesque with a penchant for biting off people's noses. He was foul, creepy, and a little bit tragic. In Batman Returns, DeVito's Penguin is portrayed as an abandoned child, discarded by his wealthy parents due to his physical deformities, and raised by actual penguins in the Gotham sewers. Ugh. It was a bizarre and creepy origin story, to say the least. DeVito's Penguin was as much a horror character as he was a comic book villain, with a slimy demeanor and a dark, unsettling personality that made audiences recoil even as they were captivated. While this version of the character diverged drastically from the comics, it left a lasting impact on pop culture. DeVito's Penguin became one of the most memorable Batman villains ever seen on a screen, and a reminder that the line between villain and monster can sometimes be very, very thin. In the 2000s, comics began to portray the Penguin in a more nuanced light. He was no longer just a bird-themed criminal or a monster from the sewers. He was a businessman. This new take saw the Penguin operating the Iceberg Lounge, a schwanky nightclub that served as a front for his criminal activities. The Penguin was shrewd, cunning, and politically connected, more of a crime boss than a traditional supervillain. He preferred to manipulate from behind the scenes, pulling the strings rather than getting his hands dirty. Writers like Ed Brubaker and Greg Hurwitz delved deeper into the Penguin's psyche, exploring his insecurities, his obsession with status, and his ruthless ambition. This was a Penguin who understood the value of money and influence. He may not have had superpowers, but he wielded power in Gotham through blackmail, corruption, and of course, a little bit of umbrella-based intimidation. This version of the Penguin became a staple in the comics, a businessman with a taste for revenge and a knack for survival. He was still the Penguin, but now he was a Penguin who understood the modern world of crime, blending high society with low morals. In recent years, the Penguin has continued to evolve, particularly in live-action portrayals. The Gotham TV series introduced us to Robin Lloyd Taylor's Penguin, a young, ambitious, and slightly pathetic version of the character. This Penguin was slim, scrappy, and power-hungry, a far cry from the rotund crime boss we come to know. Taylor's performance added a new layer of depth, showing the Penguin's rise from low-level lackey to Gotham's top crime lord. Then, in The Batman in 2022, we got Colin Farrell's Penguin, a grittier, more realistic take on the character. Farrell's Penguin is a gangster through and through, trading the monocle for a scarred face and a heavy accent. This Penguin is streetwise, tough, and just a bit humorous. While he's still unmistakably the Penguin, he's been reimagined for a darker, grittier Gotham, showing that even an old-school villain can adapt to the times. Audiences loved it, and they wanted more of Farrell's version of the Penguin. The Penguin series in 2024 is a gritty, character-focused series that dives into the rise of Oswald Cobblepot. The show explores how Oswald, portrayed by Colin Farrell, is a mesmerizing, transformative performance, carves out his criminal empire amid Gotham's chaotic and corrupt underworld. The series captures the grim, noir atmosphere of Gotham, with striking visuals and a complex narrative that shows Cobblepot's ambition, ruthlessness, and occasional vulnerability. With intense character work, moral complex storytelling, and plenty of dark, suspenseful moments, The Penguin is a compelling watch for fans of the Batman universe, adding depth to one of its most iconic villains while embracing the gritty realism established in recent adaptations. Penguin's journey from comic book goofball to gritty crime boss is a testament to the character's adaptability. Whether he's squawking like Burgess Meredith or biting people like Danny DeVito, The Penguin has remained a beloved villain in the Batman mythos. He may be a criminal, a monster, and a fiend, but he's also a symbol of class, wit, and let's face it, style. With his top hat, monocle, and weaponized umbrellas, the Penguin is more than just a Batman villain. He is a Gotham icon. And so, the Penguin waddles on, a villain who's equal parts terrifying and dapper, grotesque and charming. Here's to Gotham's most fearsome feathered friend, the one and only Penguin. Thanks for watching. What topics in history have you wondered about? Comment below and let us know what videos you would like to see. And be sure to like and subscribe.
Carry them into the sewer and toss them into a deep, dark, watery grave!